Good evening, welcome to the latest live edition of Last Bell Boxing. Tonight we're joined by regular Ander. Good evening, Ander.
Evening, mate. You all right?
Yeah, Sam, thank you. So we've got a lot to get through this week, Ander, so we're going to jump straight into it, okay? So as normal, I'll do a bit of the intro, then hand it over to you to take us through the card. So, first review this week is going to be the Barazzi card. So over to you, Andy, start taking us through the undercard.
Okay, no problem. Just before we do jump in the undercard, anybody in the sidebar that wants to come and join us live on screen, Carl will drop the link, and we'll do that a few times as the show's going on, just to refresh you. We don't bite, so feel free to jump on. All your comments and all your opinions matter to us on this show. So straight on to the Barazzi undercard. I think we'll start with Cyrus Pattinson, mate. Chap that's been on our show once quite a while ago before he made his pro debut. Ticking along. He's a little bit frustrated because he was meant to be out in December and that fell through. So he's chomping at the bit a little bit. He's going in against Dimitri Trenel from France, who's had a few more fights than him. But Pattinson's got a really good amateur record, hasn't he?
Yeah. All I would say, though, I know he's had a few cancellations, but it's time to start going through the levels now. And I know he's won 3 with 1 knockout. But as we've seen before with these amateurs who operate at a good level in amateur boxing, they can move quite quickly. Yeah. I can understand his frustration, but this guy is coming over, obviously 1-8 with 4 KOs. So it might be a test for him, but looking through Trenel's resume, there's nobody of note in there, is there? So hopefully it's an opponent where Pattinson can get a few rounds in, and let's start seeing him move up the levels, because the British boxing public can soon start forgetting people. I think he's in danger if you don't start getting in some meaningful fights, let's say.
Yeah. He
could be left behind a little bit, and that'd be a shame.
Well, he just needs to keep people's minds ticking over with good performances, don't he? I suspect this fight is going to give him that platform. It's going to make him look good.
Yeah, it's an interesting one with DAZN, isn't it? They sign all these fighters, and if you're not at the upper echelons of the stable, I'd argue you can be left behind a little bit.
The problem with his own fight, signing all these good amateurs, mate, with decent pedigrees, they've got that many that they get lost in the mix, or they're in danger of getting lost in the mix. I don't want to say that about all of them because it's not fair. Because there's some real talent there, and if they were on other shows, Boxer, Probellum, even BT and Frank Warren, my personal opinion is they get pushed a bit quicker.
Well, it's interesting because it's a clear choice, isn't it? Which the likes of Savannah Marshall have had to make, and Yui Fiore. Do you want to sit at DAZN and be down the pecking order and maybe don't get the fights that you want? Or do you go to a Boxer or BT Sports and headline fight cards? Maybe not as big headline fight cards, but do you go and headline a Boxer show and raise your profile that way? Yep. There's pros and cons to both sides, to be honest. But I think that's that's developing into a clear choice in British boxing.
Or the other one is you sign with Wasserman Boxing and you put yourself out on terrestrial TV where at least double the audience is going to see when you fight. The only problem with that is at the minute with terrestrial TV, and we'll get on to Channel 5 shortly, they're not putting full cards on. So you sign with them, and the likelihood is you're not going to be on the live TV show until you're a top-end fighter. But like I said, we'll come to that in a bit. So predictions for the Pattinson fight?
Yeah, it's over 8 rounds, isn't it? So I think Pattinson's going to want to get the rounds in, so I'm going for a wide points decision.
I think he's going to want to make a statement, mate. I think he'll try and stop this guy inside the distance. I'll go for round 7 stoppage. Okay, moving on. Heavyweight John Edges. He's fighting Robert Baltru from Portugal. So John Edge is currently 5-0. Beltru's 2-0-1. This is at light heavyweight, I believe.
Yep.
And the interesting thing for me on this, I quite like John Edges. I think. I mean, there's a number of things that could happen. You know how you got this comment about Jake Paul when he said he'll fight any matchroom fighter under 10 that's had under 10 fights. You got the likes of John Edges and Chevron Clark, who we'll come on to shortly. They could fall into that mix, you know.
They're both very keen to put themselves in the picture at the press conference, wasn't it?
My personal opinion is, and well, we've said it on the show a couple of times, and I don't want to give that Muppet any more airtime than I have to. But he needs to fight proper opponents. You know, there's this rumor going out that he's fighting another UFC fighter, a retired one, by the way, at that. So we'll leave it at that. But you never know. I mean, if these guys impress enough, evening captain, if these guys impress enough, put a decent show on, you never know that they might get that fight, which is going to make them a lot of money, and put the names up in the lights, I suppose. Anyway, back to John Edges. What do you think about him, Carl? Have you seen much of him?
Yeah, I have. I rate him. He's got a good following in terms of fan base as well. And Eddie likes to give him a little bit of a push as well, don't he? Even in the Sky days, he was getting plenty of outings. So we spoke about other cards giving fighters gimme fights. I think you can look at Patterson, Edges, and the Clark fight. I don't expect him to have any trouble in coming through them fights. So where we've been critical with other promoters, i.e. Boxer, this feels a bit like the same sort of quality as the undercard in Boxer's terms, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I mean, Edges, he's only had 5 fights, mate. You got to give these guys a little bit of leeway until they start getting to around the 10 fight mark, and then you got to say, okay, now it's about time you got pushed.
Or 20 odd fights if it's my favourite fighter.
I've got a clue you're talking about. Okay.
I think you can. Yeah, but you need competitive fights, don't you? That's the key.
Yeah. I mean, this guy that John Edges is fighting, he's only had 3 fights himself. So you never know what you're getting, do you? When you get these opponents in from abroad, you never know how durable they are. You never know. You can look at the record, but that don't always tell the full tale. So it's going to be one of them. If Edges blows him out in 20 seconds or a minute, everyone's going to be saying, well, that was a waste of time. But if he takes him the distance and gives him rounds, then they'll be saying, well, Edges ain't good enough. It's all learning. It's all learning fights at this stage for me. I don't like being too critical of fighters when they're coming through like this.
It's all about matchmaking, isn't it? And getting the rounds in and learning fights. You know, I just don't like it when they bring these fighters over. Let's be honest, they're absolutely shambolic. You know, and they come on the scales and they're not professional, and there's nothing to be had from fighters like that.
Good evening, Sean.
Evening, guys.
How are you, pal?
Yeah, I'm all good, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, very good. What's your opinion on having fighters that have only got 2, 3, 4, 5 fights under the belt on the undercards of the live event?
I guess that they've got to learn somewhere, haven't they? I think it's a bit different when you've got Campbell Hatton, who's like chief support at times. But I have no problem if they're on at 5 o'clock opening the show or whatever. That's all good experience for them. And at the end of the day, it will all give them experience going into the future.
You make a good point, actually, with the Campbell Hatton situation where he was thrown in the spotlight, and because of his name, he was really high up on the bill, much higher up than some of the fighters that have got a lot more experience, better fights, more than you can argue as well.
But they've learned that, haven't they? They've learned a lesson with Campbell.
Yeah, they've pulled him back down the card, haven't they?
Yeah.
I think they did that for certain fights, especially in Manchester, because the name's going to pull the crowd in, and the later up the bill you put him, the more you retain the crowd. I guess that was probably the thinking at the time. Okay, quickly moving on then. Chevron Clark looks a cracking fighter. Is one of the names for me to get my teeth into, Carl.
God knows
Pavel Martiniak, I think is.
Yeah, I don't think that's a bad effort.
From Poland. Again at cruiserweight, Chevron Clark's 1-0. So just like we've just talked about John Edges, same thing for me. You know, he's a fighter that needs experience. Again, he's been chucked in this bracket with Jake Paul. So let's just see how it goes.
To say you don't want to talk about Jake Paul, you're giving him a lot of airtime this show.
It annoys me though, mate. It annoys me.
Well, then don't mention him then.
You know what, Carl? I can't get it out of my head.
I think you're a secret closet fan. That's why I keep banging on about it.
I can't wait for him to fight another retired UFC fighter. It's fantastic.
But it just proves a point that a fan like you are banging on about it. You're making him relevant again.
It annoys me, mate. Swiftly moving on. Ellie Scottner. This is a real step up for Ellie Scottner.
Yeah.
She's had 4 fights and she's going in with Maria Cecilia Roman, who just fought Ebony Bridges for the IBF title. I mean, this is Eddie Earn saying he's really backing Ellie Scottner in this. Because this girl's got a lot of experience. And that fight was close against Bridges, by the way.
I think this is a pull up or shut up fight.
Yeah.
Because she's been making a lot of noise, Ellie Scottner, about wanting to move quickly. Well, she's got a wish because Roman's only been, she's been beat to brackers. She's been beat to some very good fighters, hasn't she?
Yes.
So, yeah, I still think Scotland's going to win, but this will propel her up the rankings, won't it?
10-round fight as well, mate. And this girl don't go down easy. This is going to be a real test of Scotty's art, in my opinion. And maybe she needs it. Maybe it's one of them. You know, maybe this is, like you say, put up or shut up, I guess, is a decent term for it. Because
the only trouble is with this sort of fight so soon, Andy, is, so she goes on and beats Roman, you're at that level, aren't you? There's no going back, is there?
Yeah.
So there's an argument where you can move a fighter a bit too quick, but I like Scottner. I think she's got art and she's a warrior. Yeah. But this is a proper fight. I'd like to know where this is going to sit on the card, to be honest.
Yeah, I think it'll. I see it being just below Robbie Davis Jr. Because that Robbie Davis Jr. fight is going to be a bit of a 50-50 for me. So I think they'll keep that quite high up on the card. It's quite a decent card, this, when you look at the talent and you look at the fights being had. There's some decent close fights. What's your opinion of Ellie Scottner? Where do you see it going?
I think it was interesting that you sort of said it'd be a tough fight for her, because if I remember rightly, she was in a really close fight on the Ryder undercard earlier in the year, and many people thought that she might have lost that one. So I think this will be a real test for her, as you say, against the girl that Ebony Bridges beat, and I guess she wants to be up there towards the end of the year, maybe even fighting Bridges. I guess that's their sort of direction they travel. They want to push her.
I think that's what they're doing. Yeah, I agree, mate. I think that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
Very early in the pro career, though.
And let's have it right. Bridges is beatable, isn't she? I know she's got all this hype train behind her and they're pushing her, but as a fighter, she's beatable. So I can't blame them for looking to get to her quite quickly, Bridges.
Okay, swiftly moving on. Robbie Davis Jr. is in against Javier Molina. Now, Javier Molina's his record's 22-4, but he's been in with some real top end. Jose Pedrosa has won. Jamal James and Jesus Ramos. He's been in some real big we're in with some real big names there. He's not going to be phased by Robbie Davies Jr. one little bit. Considering how many fights Robbie Davies Jr. has had, he's not really had a big push. Does that tell you what Matchroom think of him?
I think he's had a couple of losses, a couple of big losses, Andy. I mean, he lost to Ritson, didn't he? And that put a bit of an alt on his career, to be honest. He's had to rebuild. So, I just think I like Robbie Davies Jr. I think there's a good fighter in there. But I think every time he's gone to a certain level, he's been found wanting a little bit. So that obviously stunts your development. But this Molina, I mean, he's 32, isn't there? So, if he wants another world title shot, time's running out a little bit. So this is a proper close fight. This is. Ryan in the sidebar says Molina by knockout.
I'm not sure about that. If you look at Molina's record, he's don't state that he's a big puncher. He's only had 9 KOs in his 22 fights.
I think it's a proper nip and tuck fight. I do.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. I think this is going to be one of them where you're digging it up from your boots in the last couple of rounds. It's going to be who wants it the most. I'll be very surprised if there's an early knockout in this fight. Although Robbie Davies Jr. he holds a bit of power. He's got a bigger KO ratio. So Ryan O'Rourke says Robbie Davies Jr.'s got no chin. Well, big statement, buddy. Welcome to everyone in the sidebar, by the way. Evening, Joe. Evening, Boxing Ramble. I see this as very close. Sean,
I'm going Robbie Davies Jr. on points. And if I'm wrong, I'll buy Ryan O'Rourke a pint when we're in Liverpool.
Yeah, for me, it's a tough one because every time Robbie sort of have momentum or look good, he lost. I think he lost in Liverpool, didn't he, against someone he should never have lost against. And then since then, I don't know if he's lost a bit of confidence as well. But Shane Wiggins seems to be sort of bringing out the best in him now. I think he's sort of at the stage where a loss now will sort of put to end any ambition as a world title fighter.
Yeah, he'll have nowhere to go, Sean, will have.
No, so I think for him now, he needs to win to carry on momentum, and then let's see where he is in 6 months, really.
So what are you going for then, Sean?
I think he'll win a tight points decision.
So Ryan O'Rourke said, I don't do less than Moretta, no cheap fights. Ryan, what are you suggesting? I'm a Carlin or Foster's kind of guy. I'll buy you a Moretti, no bother.
He is Ryan. He's a Foster's or Carlin at best, mate. Until he's buying his own pint, and then he gets Moretti in.
Then he's Perona. Other beers are available, obviously.
Michael, good evening, mate. You reckon you look tired tonight, Carl?
Yeah, I've been grafting. It's listening to your Canadian show, Mike. It sends anyone to sleep. Anyway, moving on.
Mike, if you want to jump on, mate, Carl will drop you the link.
Just to clear that up with Ryan, me and Andy are due in Liverpool. We're going to the Rotunda to do some filming. If you want to contact me privately, I'll let you know when the dates are. Okay, fella. Okay,
moving on. Cole's favourite fighter, Alan Babic, against Adam Balski from Poland. Looks like it's his first fight at Bridgerweight or Cruiserweight. I don't.
Here we go, Lander. Bridgerweight. Obviously, it's WBC's invention.
I don't think anyone can make his mind up what weight he's fighting at.
Do you think Bridgerweight will be adopted by all the other governing bodies, Andy, or do you think he'll disappear?
I think it's a load of shite, mate.
What about you, Sean? Do you think it will stay around, or because at the minute it's just WBC playing around, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it will be gone this time next year, really.
Yeah. Because do we care about it? Do we care that Oscar Rivas is the champion? Answers on the postcard. I know what my answer is.
Do you know what, mate? When Rivas fought Dillian White, I actually thought there's a decent fighter there. He just isn't big enough. He could probably make Cruiser if he wanted to. This Bridgeway,
It's nonsense.
this just stinks of a governing body wanting to make more money off of fighters by putting another weight category in. But that's what's going to happen. Babbage will come through this fight.
I mean, Andy, let's have it right. It's the equivalent of calling Lennox Lewis Canadian, isn't it? It's that much of a rip-off. You know?
I'm guessing you're aiming that because Mike's on the in the sidebar.
Just an observation.
Sean, before we get Cole's in-depth opinion on Babbage, what's your opinion on him?
Won't take long.
I just think that he's just there to have a character, really. I don't think anyone really rates his boxing ability. I mean, isn't he basically a doorman from Croatia, essentially? And he's had a few fights, and that's how he got into boxing.
Sean, you're more brutal than I am.
But yeah, that's the extent of my thoughts on him, really, I think.
So Joe in the sidebar, can't wait until the cabbage gets iced. I've got nothing positive to say about him. That's even more brutal than you, Sean.
Joe,
let's make it a trio. Let's say your opinion on him.
Just before I do, Joe, you might need to translate that phrase cabbage for our Canadian friends. So if you want to elaborate on that, feel free to do so in the sidebar. So, Babbage, where do I start? I know Matt Nash has just said I like Babbage. I like Matt, but Matt, you're wide of the mark here. I like Babbage. Entertaining, but I think he's a novelty act. I'd go a bit further than that, Matt. I'm going to call him a pantomime act. You know, he's been giving gimme fights. He comes marching forward. I really hope a motivated Dave Allen does get in with him because someone's going to absolutely punch this guy's head off. He's got no talent. He keeps, you know, it smacks me of I mean, it's a bit harsh on Sam Eggington, but Matchroom always like to have that one fighter that they give a push to who's never really going to win a world title.
Dave Allen's probably a good name to chuck in for there.
Dave Allen's a better boxer than Babbage, though.
Yeah, no, I agree. But when Dave Allen first come on, he wasn't completely committed, let's say.
No.
I hope that's not disrespectful, but he wasn't, was he? He was out of shape. He wasn't properly committed to the sport. Later on, when things started happening for him, he'd become more committed and he'd become a much better fighter because of it.
But Babbage, I think he genuinely believes that he's got world title ambitions. That's what makes me, you know, he just annoys me. He just annoys me. So a couple of comments in his sidebar. Rhino Raw said, Babbage, the no-called savage. He was a COVID attraction for small old shows. Niall O'Connor, good evening, Niall. Babbage is some crack, but he gets sparked out by someone who can fight. I mean, he's been calling out Ergovic, hasn't he, for a while. Can you imagine Ergovic with him?
Quite clearly, someone's had a word in his ear and says, "Stop calling out these big heavyweights because you're going to get sparked." That's why they're tailoring him to this Bridgerweight. I mean, in my opinion, Oscar Rivas does him as well because he's a better fighter than him. I guess we see, don't we?
Anyone?
Then what's your give us a prediction call for the Babbage fight?
I would love Adam to knock him out, but I think it's the same old story, isn't it? I think he'll stop this guy probably round 9. That's what I'm going for. What about you, Sean?
Yeah, I agree. It'll just be the same old with him, really, and the ref will jump in at some point before it comes to an end.
And then we'll all be shouting, "Someone's behind you! Someone's behind you!" What about you, Andy? How do you think he's going?
Babbage will do his usual thing and windmill his way through the fight. They seem to pick fighters that can't deal with his pressure. Because that's all he is. He comes forward, throws his big bombs, tries to bully people and outmuscle people. As soon as he steps in with somebody that has a bit of a boxing brain and can use his IQ in the ring and his feet, then he's in lots and lots and lots of trouble. I don't know enough about this Adam Bowski to know whether he's capable of that. I'm going to say that the Babbage probably stops him late rounds, round 8, something like that.
So, we'll just go off a tangent for a minute because I'm conscious Ryan posts quite a few questions that we don't really get around to. So we will take this one before we jump on to the next fight.
All right.
So Ryan says, what do you think about Bill Haney not being allowed into Australia? How does that affect the fight?
Do you want me to answer that?
Key member. Yeah, go on, Andy. You go first.
I actually think that is massively beneficial to Devon. Bill Haney's a nightmare, mate. He's a nightmare.
Quite pivotal in the corner, though.
Well, he's still in the corner because he's his
In my view.
Yeah, it's his relation. No other reason. Yeah. He's obviously Devon's obviously got a lot of respect for him, and that's it. It doesn't work for me. Family relations doesn't work for me. Very rare that you get it at that top level. Eventually they get found out because emotions take over when they shouldn't do. I think it's much better for him that he's not in the corner.
It's quite interesting, just before I come to Sean, that Eddie Hearn today was saying that he'd worked tirelessly with the Australian government to try and get him in. So he obviously thinks it's a game changer, him not being over there.
He probably thinks it affects Haney a bit too much, maybe.
What about you, Sean?
Yeah, I agree. I don't think in general that the dads that train their sons does work. Obviously, Joe Calzaghe was a bit of an exception to that. Yeah. But I think Ben Davison not being there may be a bit of a bad thing as well, because at the end of the day, two of his trainers that would have normally been there, that could affect him somewhat. I think isn't Zad Judah's dad I've seen that's going to be his coach or something for this fight, which is interesting because I don't know what their relationship is, but I guess if he's got the talent, he'll come through and it shouldn't really affect him.
How involved is Ben Davison though? Into just a bit of a cheerleader for Devon Haney?
Well, from what I understand, he was basically the main guy in his last couple of fights, so we'll have to wait and see on that one.
Okay, fair enough. Cheers, Ryan, for the question. Andy, back to Chantel Cameron.
I just want to pick this comment up by Joe. He's gone back to the Babbage situation. If Babbage did his ring walk dressed as Krusty the Clown, I'd get on board. I think we'll leave the Babbage one at that. Niall O'Connor, Lomachenko, Calzaghe are the other father and son combinations that work. They do, but you're talking about two outstanding fighters. Not that Haney's not a good fighter, he is, but he's not on the level of Lomachenko and Calzaghe.
Not yet, you mean?
No, not yet. He could still get there. Yeah, he could still get there. Joe, if Haney is as good as he says he is, it shouldn't be an issue. That's kind of the route I'm going down with that one, Joe. I think it can be a distraction myself. But then, just personal opinion. Okay, Chantel Cameron, very frustrated at the minute because the undisputed fight with Callie Reese fell through. Callie Reese got ill, so that fight's been put on hold. So she's a little bit frustrated, and I've said this before on our show. I rate Chantel Cameron as one of the best women fighters in the world. I just don't think she's had the platform to show it yet. She will be undisputed at this weight, and then it's very, very interesting to see what she does. But this fighter she's got lined up is no bum. Victoria Bustos from Argentina. She's been in with Cecilia Brackhurst, Katie Taylor, and Erica Faraz. So she's had some talent. She's been in with some good fighters. How do you see this, Cole?
Before we make a start, so we welcome. Is it Ra? Have I pronounced that right?
Evening, gents. Thanks for having me on.
No worries.
So long. When you first invited me, I was still doing Ramadan and felt faint in the evening. So yeah.
No worries. So I just want to make sure I'm pronouncing your name right, mate. So is it Ra?
That's my online name. Yeah, that'll do.
All right, we'll keep it as that then.
We'll stick with that one then, mate.
Nice one.
Rather than going to Cole, I'll come to you then. What's your opinion of Chantel Cameron? Where do you think she sits amongst women elite fighters?
Best in her weight class. I think she beats Callie Reese, and if Katie Taylor was to move up, I think she'd beat her as well and beat her handily. So yeah, no sitting on the fence there. I'm a little bit biased because a friend of mine is close.
Okay.
So I am swallowing his Kool-Aid, as you do when you know you've got friends involved. But I think from what she's shown in the ring already, I think that is presumption. She's still young and, well, she's 30 compared to Katie Taylor. She's young and definitely fresh. So something odd up with Callie Reese. You know, why she's disappeared, this vague, not medically fit. I mean, they're not saying it's an injury. You know, broken hand, a torn shoulder, medically unfit. What does that? Yeah. I
think that's what's winding Chantel Cameron up is that it's not clear. I think she thinks that she's being dodged.
So do I. I think that's what's technically known as swerving.
Yeah, I mean, Reese was, in many people's views, fortunate to have got the win last time out against her American compatriot. Sorry, I forget the name. So yeah, maybe she's hoping to wait Chantel out, or hope Chantel gets more mileage on the clock. I don't know what her line of thinking there is, but hey, listen, this is just speculation. She may well have a real medical condition. It's personal, which is fair enough, but yeah, fan of Chantel. I think she's going to be next.
So what's your prediction then?
She don't look like a big hitter, so I expect it to go the distance, but I think she'll be a clear winner on the scorecards, especially with home advantage. Yeah.
Sean, what about you, mate? How do you see it going?
Yeah, I see it going a similar way, actually. I think she'll win on points. I think what's quite noticeable with her, though, since Jamie Moore's trained there, she's come on night and day in professional boxing, I think.
Yeah.
And again, it shows how good a trainer Jamie Moore is, especially with the Jack Catterall performance he got out of him as well. So I think he deserves a lot of credit in her progression. So yeah, I think she'll win on points fairly wide.
Cole,
yeah,
what's your prediction
point
on this?
there. Sorry,
Yeah,
I forget. I didn't catch your other guest's name.
Sean.
Sean. So, yeah, great point by Sean. I think Jamie Moore is another of these brilliant coaches, but because he's not a big mouth, he's not glamorous, and whatever, he's under the radar a bit. Clearly, he's a brilliant coach. So,
name your box that Jamie Moore hasn't improved.
Yeah, I think that's something
So,
really important.
My prediction in terms of, not for one like sound like a broken record, but I agree with the guys. I can see it's going to points, but I think Chantel will take it. I wouldn't say a wide point decision, but a comfortable one.
I'm gonna book the trend, lads. I think Chantel Cameron breaks her up. I think she stops her because she's frustrated with the way things are going. She's going to take it out on this kid. I think she breaks her up, and I think she stops her. I'm going to go for round 8. Okay. Just before we move on to the headliner, Rhino Rooks put another comment in the sidebar. I'd like you to take this, Cole.
No, Ryan, I know we've let you have one question, lad, but don't start flooding us with off-the-topic questions, Taking liberties a little bit, Ryan, aren't you? Jump on camera. Go on, Andy, hit me with it.
Okay. Do you think Natasha Jonas would be Katie Taylor now? I think she won the first fight. Katie gets all the close decisions, Jonas, Serrano. I think what he's trying to say is he thinks that Katie Taylor isn't the same fighter from the first Natasha Jonas fight. So bearing in mind, Jonas is got a belt a couple of weights above now. I mean, I personally don't think that fight ever happens again.
No.
Katie Taylor's maybe got one fight left in her. And it'll be a massive payday if she does.
It'll be the rematch, won't it? At Croke
Yeah,
Park.
I think that's all she's got left. Niall O'Connor, he's a first-class trainer, and his right-hand man, Nigel, is also class.
Yeah.
He's talking about Jamie Moore, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely agree. I think he's brilliant. He's done wonders. Chantel Cameron technically is outstanding.
Well, that's where Campbell Hatton should be going to.
Yeah, someone like that. I agree with you, mate. Yeah, Chantel Cameron is technically outstanding. She's got a very good boxing brain as well, and the comments she gets in between rounds from Jamie are brilliant. He keeps her very calm. He keeps her very level-headed in between rounds in the corner. Not that she's been in any sort of trouble yet. That's going to be the interesting one. Is when she's in a fight where she gets buzzed or she's in a little bit of trouble. That's where Jamie's going to come into his own, I think. But yeah, fantastic.
And what I'll do, Ryan, I'll actually answer your question that you asked rather than go around the houses. So no, Tasha Jonas wouldn't beat Katie Taylor for me. I think Katie Taylor's shown in her last fight that she's still got enough left in the tank when needed. I was impressed. I haven't been impressed with Katie Taylor the last couple of fights, but against Serrano, I was really impressed. So I'll answer the question.
No, I did answer it. I said that it wouldn't happen because Jonas has got a belt at a different weight. So I answered the question. I just think
you haven't though, have you? He's asking. Step that aside. He's asking, do you think Tasha Jonas would beat Taylor? Never mind whether it's going to happen or not. If it did,
she would do. She beat the first time. Well, no, she didn't beat the first time. Actually, sorry, she didn't beat the first time. She lost the last two rounds. It was on my scorecard. It was even going into the last two rounds.
So what would happen now?
Jonas beats her.
No, just say. What about you, Rob? What do you reckon if them two stepped in the ring again?
Well, Tasha's at 154 now, isn't she? So
yeah,
you're presuming Casey will have to move up. I think Tasha beats her, possibly stops her. Katie, I think she might have enough in the well more time.
Right, you're breaking up a little bit, mate. You might want to drop off and come back on.
Yep, so Sean, why Rice sorts that out? Do you want to give us your prediction?
Yeah, I think Katie Taylor would win if they was to fight, but I think her problem would be I don't think she'll be motivated for the fight to happen. So if it did happen, I think Katie Taylor would probably outbox her on a close points decision.
Back to my point, really, that I think Katie Taylor's only got one fight left, and there's only one fight that makes any sense, money-wise.
And it's a perfect ending for her, isn't it?
She gets it in Ireland, mate. That's the big deal. Is can she get it in Ireland?
Yeah.
Do you want to finish what you were saying, Ra?
Can you hear me, gents?
We can hear you now. Yeah,
we can now, mate.
Yeah, sorry.
No worries.
Router's a bit far from my room. Yeah, I was saying, to me, Katie's looking like her well is almost empty. She's got one big fight left in her. I think she could maybe beat Serrano with the Dublin crowd behind her. Another close decision, and that'll empty her tank for good. I don't think she's got enough in her tank to go up against a bigger, fresher opponent like Tasha. But no, I think if they were to fight next, Tasha wins. Unless Tasha boils back down to lightweight. That might take more out of her than she'd like.
Well, there's no way Katie Taylor would go up to fight Tasha at that weight, is there? Let's be honest.
No, exactly. So as Sean said, as Ryan said, it's not going to happen. I don't think. She's got one big fight left in her. I guess it makes sense that it's a rematch with Serrano. Bow out in front of 80,000 adoring Irishmen and women at Croker Park. Yeah, that's not hating on Katie. I mean, fighters get old and they decline. People, a lot of fans seem to think that it's a criticism. Nah, aging is part of this sport and decline is part of this sport.
Yeah,
like every athletic adventure. So 30 plus, it is downhill, and the nature of this game,
It certainly is at the
miles on
lower
the clock.
weights.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I don't know what you guys know about this one. I mean, I'm not as clued up as you guys about the actual.
Losing you again, mate, right at the critical time. Ryan's made a just quickly. We'll just quickly do this comment, Ryan. Then we want to get back onto topic. Ryan said Tasha has already said she dropped down weight for the fight. She said that on our show, Ryan, as well. And we're talking about a year ago now that we had her on the show. She's made it very clear that she wanted that rematch. I actually think that the lightweight's Jonas's optimum weight. I think that's where she boxes best. The fact of the matter is, she's had to go up the 3 divisions she's gone up to get another world title shot because she wasn't game one. That's how frustrated she was. And then she went and laid out a fighter, massive fighter, much heavier than her. I think Jonas has just not had the respect she's deserved when she's in a fighting career, in a pro fighting career. Anyway, moving swiftly on, back to the topic, to what will be an absolute outstanding fight, in my opinion. Joshua Buatsi went against Craig Spider Richards. There's lots of little narratives here, isn't there? The fact that they live around the corner from each other, the fact that Joshua Buatsi's been brought through as the golden boy, and Richards has had to kind of claw and fight his way to get a bit of respect. A lot gets made of the Frank Buglioni loss for Richards, and he probably didn't get the fights he deserved because of that loss. But
he did take that on a week's notice, though. Remember,
that's what I was just about to say. He only had a week to train for that fight. The Bivol fight, Carl will tell you, and a lot of people will tell you that Bivol was in second gear in that fight. But even so, Richards made a real good representation of himself in that fight. Whereas Buatsi, in my opinion, isn't active enough. He's got all the tools, but they're not putting him out enough. If he's the fighter that they all think he is, why is he not in these fights with other British light heavyweights? There's 4 or 5 fights that could be made before he moves on to world level. It's like they don't want him to take the risk in case he loses, but that's not a world class fighter. That's not a fighter that really believes in himself. We'll see now, because he's in with a real decent level fighter in Craig Richards. Carl, how do you see this going?
Well, let's just get one thing right. Craig Richards isn't world level, is it? And let's not pretend he is.
No, I'm not saying he is.
So, I think Buatsi will beat Richards. I think he's a better boxer. I think Richards got levels. I think Richards probably European level. So I agree, though. Buatsi, he needs to start getting some big names on his resume. Start building a profile, because his profile isn't great in the UK outside of London, is it? Hardcore boxing fans might know of him, but he's nowhere near crossing over to the casuals yet. I'm going to go Joshua Buatsi to finish Richards. I think he'll break him up and finish him around. I'm going to go round 10. Yeah, I'm not sure where Richards go after this fight, to be honest with you, but that's my prediction.
This whole situation with Buatsi, he was the golden boy for a couple of years, and he was pushed by Eddie Hearn. The narrative was pushed, and then all of a sudden, it's as though he fell out of favour a little bit, and he wasn't the first name coming out of Eddie Hearn's mouth anymore. That's now Conor Benn. So it looks, it kind of feels like he's fell out of favour a little bit, and this wouldn't surprise me if this is Eddie Hearn saying to Buatsi, "Go on then, prove yourself." And if he does, then maybe he'll become golden boy again.
I mean, Richards has taken a lot of confidence from this Bivol fight. Now he's gone and beat Canelo, but I'm not sure boxing quite works that way, to be honest with you. I don't think he was good enough on the night to get anywhere near Bivol. That's my opinion. I think, like I said 100 times before on the show, Bivol, I wouldn't even say second gear under. I'd say Bivol just cruised through that fight. Because he fights to the level of his opponent, like I've been banging on about for ages. So I'm not sure Richard should take any confidence from that fight. But I just think Buatsi will outclass him. That's what I think will happen.
Sean?
Yeah, I agree. I would say with Richards, it's almost a selling point for the fight, isn't it? Because of what happened with Canelo, that all of a sudden it's a good performance from Richards. But I actually think that the fight may be a bit like Groves and De Gale. I've been thinking about that quite a lot the last week, and that's sort of how I see the fight go. And I think it could be a bit controversial. I think Buatsi will win, but I don't think it will be an easy ride for him. I think he's had 3 or 4 quite bad injuries now as well. Why he hasn't been as active as maybe he should have been. So maybe this is a sort of bigger fight than we think for him because of that reason.
Just before I come to you, Ra, I'll just pick a couple of comments up in the sidebar. So Joe said, I've got Buatsi stopping Richards, who's too upright and slow. Matt Nash, I agree, Andy Richards is not world class, but also not a fighter you can look good against. For me, Buatsi wins the wins on points in a messy fight. What's your opinion, Ra?
Similar to yours, Ryan. Although I won't tip Buatsi because I often tip more in hope than reason, and right. I partially want Craig to do this. Don't get me wrong, I like both men. I've met them both. Don't know if you know, I do a bit of reporting for some YouTube channels and Facebook channels and stuff. I do like both men, but Buatsi, as you've alluded to, his development's been really disappointing.
Yeah.
5 years a pro after reaching the heights of the Olympics, only 15 fights, and still not. Is Craig Richards the first fringe world level guy he's fought? Would you say?
Yes.
Bolotniks, is he fringe world level? I don't think I don't think we've seen enough.
Who knows? I mean, but, there was loads of rumours being made that he was going to be fighting Anthony Yard, and then you got the promoted situation there. That fight could have happened if they'd have really wanted it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't agree with you that it's Buatsi who's not got confidence in himself as such. I think you're onto something that Hearn has probably lost patience with him. Now, I don't know if it's because Buatsi is such a perfectionist that he wants to get things perfect with Virgil Hunter before he steps up, or if Hearn's getting fed up of his understated manner that he just doesn't do anything to promote himself.
I think you hit the nail on the head there. I think his commercial side of his game needs upping, don't you? I thought Craig Richards spoke really well in the press conference, but I think perhaps he tried to adopt this mean streak and it just didn't look right, did it?
But yeah, I mean, he's just not active on social media at all, which is fair enough. I mean, our generation rightfully have a contempt for, these youngsters posting pictures of their dinner and what have you. Yeah, we don't expect that, but a bit of needle, come on, it helps build your profile. And Buatsi is just silent. He's got no profile. I don't even think he's got a big profile in London.
Yeah, it's disappointing, isn't it? Because he's got the talent there. That's not questioned.
And of course, because he's relocated over to Oakland to work with Virgil Hunter, he's even less visible now. So I think this is Hearn's way of telling him, like, put up or shut up now.
Yeah.
So, I would expect realistically Buatsi to win this, but part of me would like, like I said, I would like Richards. He's number 2 in the world, pound for pound, isn't he?
Yeah. So what's
pound for pound number 1, a better fight.
So what's your prediction then, Ra? How's it go?
What? The actual one or the one that I hope?
No, let's go for the actual
what
one.
Your actual prediction is. What your mind's telling you, Ra?
On point.
Interesting.
Got Cole. Sorry, let's quickly round robin quickly again. What did you say?
I said Barazzi would finish in round 10.
Sean?
Barazzi points.
I'm going Boazzi points as well. I like Matt's analogy that Richards isn't easy to fight against, and you don't look brilliant against him because of his style. I think it might be quite messy, but it'll be close. Okay, swiftly moving on, lads. Just to recap on a couple of fights from last weekend. So let's get into the Channel 5 Wasserman deal. First show for Channel 5. So first reaction, Sean. What did you think of the presentation? What do you think of the bill? What do you think of the fights?
Yeah, I was quite impressed with it. I have to be honest, I didn't think it was the best under Hennessy, how it was run and how the production was. But I think now it's quite a lot better. That was obviously unfortunate with what happened with Josh Kelly and a few other things, but that obviously couldn't be helped. But overall, I think it's a good start for them, and hopefully they bring some bigger fights to terrestrial television.
Seeing as that you brought up Josh Kelly, mate, let's quickly touch on that before we talk about the fights that actually happened. Is it unfortunate? Because at the end of the day, it was Josh Kelly that didn't make the weight.
Yeah, I mean, from what I've seen, I've only seen bits on social media, and I've seen Adam Booth's tweets. I don't really know what to believe about it, to be honest.
So people that, for anyone in the sidebar that's watching that don't know, Adam Booth put a tweet out after the fight because there was a lot of noise about Kelly being unprofessional. Adam Booth put a tweet out saying that 2 weeks before the fight, 2 weeks before the show, he made it very clear that Josh Kelly wasn't going to make welterweight, and he was going to make, what was it, 149?
Yeah,
148. So they went to the opponent and said, right, this is the situation. Josh isn't going to make the cruiserweight limit. He's going to come in at 148. Are you happy with that? Apparently, they said no. They're not happy with it, but they still turned up and weighed in. So, as far as Kelly and his team were concerned, that was done and done. I mean, Kelly knew nothing about it, apparently. He took it away from him. That was done and dusted, and it was only on the fight day, because nothing was made at the weigh-in. They didn't say, when Kelly weighed overweight, they didn't say, you need to make weight, otherwise we're not fighting. On the day of the fight, they refused to fight. If you listen to Wasserman, it was all down to money, it was down to tactics. They knew full well that because Kelly didn't make the fight weight, they were going to get paid anyway. And then they wanted more money, which Wasserman apparently offered them 3 times the purse to still fight, and they still refused. So, who do you blame that on? Do you blame it on Wasserman as a promoter for not getting it nailed down 2 weeks before the show? Do you blame it on Kelly for not making weight? I mean, if you listen to Kelly interview 2 days before the fight, he was saying he's a big super welterweight. So why is the fight billed at welterweight then? Makes no sense. Make the fight at super welterweight, and he might have made the weight.
Let's cut through all the crap. The bottom line is you got very experienced boxing people in Sauerlands, Adam Booth, etc., etc. If that contract doesn't come back signed, technically there's no fight, is there?
Yep.
Let's have it. Cut through all the crap, and then obviously that fight. I believe in the contract it states that he had to weigh in and be on weight to get paid. So, of course, he's going to come to the weigh-in. Why is he not going to come to the weigh-in and weigh in? They should have seen this coming, shouldn't they? No, it's just like whenever his guys take a contract out, it's not done and dusted till you sign it. So, I don't really understand the he said, she said bit, because for me, if that contract's not signed, it's not signed. Simple as. Very experienced boxing people who have done many, many contracts and many, many shows. So I'm surprised. I'm surprised about it all played out. To be honest,
it stinks a little bit. It stinks a little bit. I mean, we've only got one other situation, high-profile situation from Josh Keller, and that was all the debacle with David Avanesian. That fight got postponed 3 times. And then you've got this on his comeback fight, on the bill for the launch of a new partnership with Channel 5 and Wasserman, and this happens.
I mean, if you wrote down Josh Kelly's scenarios over the last 2 fights, you know, it feels like a Hollywood film.
I know.
It does nothing for his career, does it? Especially if he wants to be taken seriously at welterweight. So we have to. I mean, according to some boxing insiders that we won't name, it's the worst kept secret ever that he can't make welterweight anymore. So why did he insist in persevering and going down the welterweight route? He just does, and then to do it on a new TV platform, on what you could call the launch night of a new deal.
Yeah, it
beggars belief, isn't it?
So just picking a sidebar, a comment up in the sidebar, if I can still see it. Joel, we like to be balanced, so. We had Catch the Hell from Channel 5 on the show. I don't know if you see it, Joel, a couple of weeks back. And he said that he wanted comments back from boxing fans on what they thought of the show. You've put in there, bring back Fat Mick, I believe you put. I can't see it now. Can you still see that comment, Carl? I can't get it up.
Excuse me. So Joe says, bring back Mick. I'll be kind. That show was a disaster. Public workout rings are bigger than that ring, but main event was a good scrap.
It did look like a small ring. But disaster, I think, is a little bit far. They did the best with what they had in the arena, I think. What I would say is commentary was fantastic again.
I mean, Andy, just to jump in, Joe, if you have got some, I mean, I'd like it in a bit of a kinder language and that, to be honest with you, but I am feeding back to Kadsal next week. So if you want to direct message me on Twitter with your views, genuinely, I'll feed them back because he wants the feedback. Sorry, Andy, go
on. So a couple more comments in the sidebar. Again, from Joe. If you make the fight at 147, you weigh in at 147. Exactly right, mate. Exactly right. As simple as that, isn't it? So all this smoke and mirrors about, oh, well, we 2 weeks out, we made this, and 2 weeks out, we said that, and it was we let the promoters know and all that. Yeah, I agree. And he's also put, Kelly can't make welterweight. Wise Booth boiling him down still. Well, like I said, he made that comment. I don't know who it was he was talking to. He made a comment a couple of days before the fight saying he thinks he's a big super welterweight. That says everything, don't it? If that's what he's thinking. Matt Nash, 2 weeks before the fight, they knew Kelly couldn't make weight. Doesn't look good. Had plenty of time to sort it, change opponent, whatever they needed to do. Completely agree, Matt. I think this is just one of them absolute disasters where they just didn't know what to do. So the question I'll put to you, Carl, is, do you think Josh Kelly really wants to be a fighter anymore? Do you think he's professional enough to make weights when he needs to make weights?
I don't know. I'll be honest with you, there's got to be a reason why he doesn't want to step up in weight, because he made David Evanesian wait for three attempts, where if you listen to the Evanesian camp, he couldn't make weight. That's why he got delayed and got delayed and got delayed. So he's obviously had trouble making weight again today. This time for this fight. I don't know Josh Kelly, so I can't answer whether he's got it in him anymore or whatever. But there's obviously some support missing somewhere in camp, isn't there? Because obviously they weighed themselves all the way through camp. It would have known before 2 weeks before the fight, if I'm honest, wouldn't he, that he's struggling to get boiled down.
Yeah.
So then I've got question marks against his promotional team, against his management, because they should be having meetings basically to discuss a plan B, because it was obvious that he wasn't going to make welter. So he said, she says, doesn't really come into it, does it? You get it done and dusted. Bearing in mind you're coming onto a new platform in terms of Channel 5. So I don't know, but I have gone on social media saying I do wonder where Josh Kelly is with his career, because it's a stuttering career at the minute, isn't it? 1 step forward, 2 back. So
How long ago was the Avanesian fight? It's got to be well over a year ago now,
it
isn't
is
it?
every year, yeah. It's a year since
But
Kelly last fought.
is he living the life, Sean?
Yeah, but you would have to think, given this is a reset in his career, essentially, that he would have used all this time to get prepared as he should be, whatever weight, and he'll be wanting to prove his statement if he was sort of intending to be a world champion, is what he's progresses.
Yeah, I mean it's a difficult one because he was billed as the next big thing, wasn't he? At Matchroom, he got all that push, and then I don't want to sound harsh, but he's dropped down the pecking order a little bit now into a new platform. So maybe the fire has gone out a little bit. I don't know.
So a little comment from Ra in the private chat because he's on screen. He's put sounds very different to what I discussed with Josh Kelly myself. Do you want to elaborate on that a bit, mate?
Can you still hear me, guys?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, sorry, I'll switch my camera off, hoping that the bandwidth will cope with it better.
No worries.
Yeah, I mean, I was at that show, and I went to the pre-fight press conference midweek, which was on a Wednesday. So that was just 2 days before the fight. And Josh Kelly seemed perfectly happy. And when we spoke, he said, yeah, this fight at super welterweight. I feel fit, strong, powerful at super welterweight. So I'm very surprised to hear you guys saying that the fight was billed as being at welterweight.
That's what was on all the cards that I saw, mate.
Yeah.
Maybe those cards were wrong, but on all the cards that I saw, it was welterweight.
Yeah, but when I spoke to him on the Wednesday, he was saying definitely super welterweight. I'll boil down only if a really big fight comes up, but for Friday night, it's super welterweight. And he still didn't make that.
No, he didn't.
Yeah.
It is all very odd. I mean, I like, again, since I've been doing the reporting and I'm meeting these fighters personally, I do like them. I want Josh to do well, but you do worry because fighters of that style, the low hands, the flashy moves, the style doesn't age well, and he's coming up to 30. He's 28 now, but
you're right in what you said, mate. The first thing that goes in a fighter is speed.
reflexes as well for me.
Yeah.
So, and he doesn't have concussive one-punch power to get him out of trouble either. So yeah, it's the stop-start nature of his career. It's very odd for the way he was built. Yeah, I mean, the show was great. I mean, when you're there live, you do tend to overlook a lot of the flaws, but the actual venue though was dreadful. I really, I mean, it's
you know what I thought of it. You know what I thought of it, Ra? I thought they made a mistake with the way they were focusing the cameras, the position in the cameras were taking up. What they should have done was have the cameras coming from.
All right, Steven Spielberg.
No, but it makes a difference here, Carl. What they were showing you was a backdrop, a black backdrop. Why not have the cameras pointing the opposite way, showing you the fans? Surely that makes a better atmosphere for the TV view, right or wrong?
Yeah. That's true.
We were looking at a black backdrop, and it gave you nothing. And so that's my only fault from the production of the show. The rest of it I thought was very slick and very smooth. They're going to work on stuff. They've got another 5 fights. Is it called another 4 fights this year?
Yeah, I mean, inevitably, it's okay. It depends where the crowd's positioned, doesn't it? Because that doesn't lend itself to getting a full flow of the fight, does it? So inevitably, you're going to have to see that backdrop at some point.
But it was constant backdrop, mate.
But there's probably a reason for that, Ander. There's probably a reason. Because don't tell me they haven't thought about having the crowd background rather than just a black background. There's probably a reason for that.
Maybe so. And maybe the arena didn't help where they had to position cameras, where they had to have commentary teams and all of that. Maybe that didn't help. So I'm sure they'll work on that. They've got another card in Liverpool on the 17th. And then I think
Are you at that one, Ra?
I have applied for it, and I'm sure Calla and his media team will welcome me back because they're still in that welcoming vibe because they're still relatively new in the market. So yes, I do plan to go up to Liverpool to see that show.
Well, I'll give you a sneak exclusive. Me and Andy will be there as well.
Oh my God! Well, we've got to get a meet up then.
Yeah.
You're gonna have a night out afterwards.
Let's take that one offline, young man. We'll have a conversation. I'm sure
I'm
something.
actually the same age as you, so if we do, it will be age appropriate.
Yeah, I'm sure something can be worked out.
Okay, back to the topic, and you two stop stroking each other egos for 5 minutes, and we'll get on with it.
Well, should we get to a fight that did happen then, like the main event?
Yeah, let's do that. Let's before we do that, let's talk about Harlem Eubank. He was in a fight against, fair enough, an aging Sean Dodd, but still Sean Dodd, who no one blasts out like that. What a fantastic left up finish.
He ain't got much left though, has there, Dodd?
Maybe not, mate. And you can throw that, but Eubank's talented, mate. He's talented. And he's been held in the shadow of Chris. We've said this on the show previously. He's been held in the shadow of Chris for a while. I think now he's coming into his own a little bit. One thing I didn't like, you might disagree on this. One thing I didn't like was when Sean Dodd was down on the floor, clearly struggling. I didn't like the fact he was stood over him doing that bar thing. I didn't think that was appropriate. It didn't show a lot of class for me. He should have just gone to the corner. Other than that, I like Harlem Eubank. I like his style. I think he carries power, and I'd like to see them move him on quite quickly. How did you see it, Carl?
Yeah, I think let's not get carried away. Let's not get our rose-tinted glasses on. So I think it's good. It's good for the domestic boxing scene. He carries a Eubank name, possibly European, but he's in a damn good weight division. So he's not be long before he's in with someone who's talented. Yes, very impressed during the last two fights, but I'm always a bit cautious because I just don't think Dodd's got much left. You know, we all know he's had his troubles outside the ring, so well played for getting back in and getting back fighting. But let's just put the brakes on a little bit and let's just see when Harlem Eubank gets in with even a British champion level fighter. Let's see what he can do.
Sean?
Yeah, I've got a lot of time for Harlem. He's obviously quite local to me, and I hope he goes far in the sport. Interesting to note that he's trying to sort of build their relationship with Brighton. I know he used to play for him when he was younger, but as we spoke about a few weeks ago, with sort of footballers building relationships with their football teams and boxing, I think that's what he hopes to do, and hopefully he can progress through the levels, and then who knows, maybe he gets his fight at the Amex that he wants.
We'll never say never, Sean, because obviously Lee Wood got wrote off time and time again. No one thought he could do anything, and look where he is. So you never know, fella.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. So moving on to the headliner, Linus Adofu, Denzel Bentley. What a fight this was!
Who cares about that black backdrops when you got a fight like this going on?
We said, didn't we, when we talked about this on last Thursday, we said we expected this to be a really good fight, but you just never know, do you? You know, fights that you think are going to be brilliant turn out to be stinkers. But what a fight this was! These guys were outstanding. I want to see it again, to be quite honest. The scorecards were close. Yep, completely agree. And for the first time in a very long while, I think the scorecards were good. I think they were pretty realistic to what was going on.
And also, Andy, I'm not going to go in on Mark Lyson for missing that touchdown, you know, where the glove touched the canvas, because, you know, I do believe his view was blocked genuinely, and it was very quick.
Yeah, it was his knee, wasn't it? Yeah, I kind of agree with you. It was very quick, and it was difficult for the ref to see. And
he's a very good ref as well.
Yeah. And he controlled the fight really well. I can't help but think that Adofu is going to wake up the next morning thinking, I made a mistake there. He was cruising the fight, fighting his own style. He was cruising the fight first few rounds, and Bentley dragged him into a
Yeah.
to a scrap. He
Yeah.
didn't need to be getting involved, and he did. I think you'd see. I like, but having said that, I really like Bentley as well. Really, really good fighters at this level. Really good fighters. Do I think Adolfo, if they had a rematch, would win the fight? If he adopted better tactics, I do. Yeah. Sean, what was your opinion?
Yeah, I echo your thoughts. I thought it was a really great fight, and I think Bentley, in the end, was the right winner. I think he epitomises really boxers that necessarily get dropped by a bigger promoter that can come back and rebuild. And hats off to him for doing that. And let's hope that they can have a rematch and they kick on Channel 5, the pair of them.
Yeah, I think it's. I think to be honest, it saved the night in some aspects with the Kelly fight falling through, because he was really the big name on the card, wasn't it? With the Kelly fight falling through, it definitely saved the night. I thought it was great. But it's nice to have opinions in the sidebar that don't match. It's nice to know other fans didn't like the evening. Other fans didn't see it the way we saw it. And all
But you're all wrong. If you disagree with me, you're all wrong, by the way.
All these comments, we're going to pass back to Kaj. And believe me, guys, he is genuine when he says he wants feedback from boxing fans, because he wants to grow the channel. He wants to grow boxing on Channel 5. He wants to push it so that there's a bigger a night than 10 till midnight. But he needs to be seeing the viewing figures rise for that to happen. He's got to obviously push that back to Channel 5 and go, look, guys, here's where we are. The fans are loving it, or the fans are hating it, or the fans are this, or the fans are that. But the fans are giving opinion. The fans care. And that's kind of what we want back. Okay, so swiftly moving on, guys. Conscious time. Tony Yoka against Martin Bakole. Carl, you called it.
Thank you.
I'll give you that. Before I'll let you have your 5 minutes of fame in the limelight.
It happens every week, so I'll make it out. I've started cutting it down.
I need to call out the French judge.
Disgusting. That's what I'll call it.
Bertrand Charnoux. How the hell did you score that fight a draw? Are you on crack, mate? Are you sniffing glue? Seriously.
Not that we're endorsing it or anything.
No, he needs banning for life as a judge, mate. Absolutely dreadful. Luckily, it didn't affect the outcome. Luckily. But that card could have been the difference. I mean, realistically, Cole, how many rounds did you give to Yoka?
None.
So you gave him no rounds, and Bakole put him down twice. Sean, how many rounds did you give to Yoka?
One at a push.
And so you gave him one, and Bakole knocked him down twice. And this judge calls it a draw. There's been comments on Twitter that it's the worst boxing judging decision in history. And to be honest with you, big statement, but it's about right. And nothing's been done. Nothing's been said. You know, the judge hasn't even come out and said, guys, I'm really sorry. I made a really big mistake. Nothing. It will just get, just like the British Border Control with the Taylor fight. It just gets brushed under the carpet. Nothing gets done about it. Oh yeah, we've had a word in us. Yeah, fantastic, brilliant, terrific. And he'll probably judge next week or the week after. Absolute disgrace. He wants banning for life. Anyway, to the fight, Cole. Does this finally put to bed that Martin Bakole doesn't turn up on fight nights?
Yes. Yeah. Let's have it right. Quite a lot of people were telling me that Yoka was going to give Bakole a tough night.
Yeah.
You know, and let's have it right. Bakole just battered him, didn't he, from round one? You know, I agree with what Ryan says. Prime example that good amateurs don't make good pros. Bakole had it levelled at him time and time again that he can't take his sparring into a big fight under the lights. I didn't give Yoka a round. It was a mess. Let's have it right. It was a mess, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So put that to bed. I'd just like to see Bacoli get some big fights now. You know, Billy Nelson's calling out all the names. Hope you're enjoying your holiday, Billy. He called out Dillian White as one prospective opponent. Come on, I'm not sure he's going to get Dillian White into the ring. I'd like to see a big promoter now take Martin Bacoli and give him a right good push. Do I think it's going to happen? Probably not. But he's creeping up there in the rankings now, isn't he? So, you know, he's going to force his way into a mandatory position eventually, and then someone's going to have to fight him.
Yeah, I agree with you, mate. Couple of comments in the sidebar before I come to you, Sean. From Matt Nash, you can't call that scorecard anything other than what it is, corruption, sadly. I don't like using that word, but it's very difficult to argue against what you've said there, Matt, if I'm being completely honest. Ryan O'Rourke, Yoka, prime example, good amateurs don't make good pros. Has he been taking himself a little bit too seriously, thinking he's better than he is and just not training as hard as he should?
Yeah, I think
that's a misservice to Bacoli. Bacoli just made him look that bad, in my opinion. So I don't agree with Joe either. Didn't think Bacoli had that performance in him, but let's be honest, Yoka was shocking. Yoka was shocking because Bacoli was all over him. Sorry,
Imran's also put Yoka really disappointed me. Olympic gold medalist.
He's an art job. That's what he is.
Unfortunately, though, Imran, I mean, you said it on the show. He was maybe a little bit lucky to get that gold medal win. He just hasn't done it in the pros. He hasn't been in with anybody. He finally comes in against somebody that can punch, and he didn't know what to do. You know, Sean, over to you, mate. Let's have a bit more from you about it.
Yeah. I think Bacoli basically controlled all the fights, but for me, there's still a lot of question marks about Bacoli. I don't necessarily see him beat many of the top 12 in the world, however you rank them. I think he is slightly one-dimensional, but he's good at what he does. He uses his size well.
Yeah.
I think Yoka just proved that he isn't as good as what he thinks he is, and he's probably bought into his own hype with how he was billed in France. And I think, you know, there's obviously allegations around him with bad substances. No one knows if that's true or not. But I think, you know, he needs to really have a look at himself, because he seemed just not with it the whole night for me. As soon as the first bell went, Bacoli sort of jumped on him, and he was almost dazed, really, and just Bacoli took over the fight and used his attributes and got the win, rightfully so.
Ra, are you still on?
I'm still with you, yeah.
What's your opinion on that? Did you get to see the fight?
I didn't know. The stream that I was trying to get it on was as bad as my stream with you guys. I've had to watch the highlights after. But
right, okay.
It was clear that he battered him from pillar to post. As Imran in the chat said, very disappointing for an Olympic gold medalist. He's another Olympian that, 6 years on, has barely progressed.
Yeah.
I mean, what's going on? There was a time you could rely on Olympians to be fast tracked to the top. This was his first sort of real test and fell very short. I think literally the only thing he halfway passed was the heart test.
Yeah.
Even then, some people were pointing out, his body language looked like he wanted out. Maybe it's just the fact that he was in front of his home fans that he didn't. If it was in America or in the UK, you could easily see him quitting on his stool, sort of halfway through. It looks. Don't know about you guys. Are you ready to throw him on the scrap heap in terms of world title
I think throwing him on the scrap heap's a bit harsh, but he needs to go back and take a long hard look at himself in the mirror, because he's clearly not the fighter that he thought he was. I got the feeling he come into the fight thinking he was going to walk all over Bacoli, and by the time he realised he couldn't, it was too late and he could do nothing about it. That's not taking anything away from Bacoli, by the way. He was great. And there's been so many rumours for years about how dangerous Bacoli has been in sparring against really good heavyweights. And he just, for whatever reason, he hasn't shown it on the night. Where do you see, Rob, where do you see Bacoli going next? What should they do with him?
Well, when you say they, who? Major promoters? Because I don't think any major promoter is going to want to invest much in him because he isn't marketable. If they put him in with one of their cash cows, he's got a good chance of beating one. And then they're stuck with this heavyweight champ that don't really sell much. I mean, the top of the heavyweight division, as you guys know, it's just getting so crowded. I mean, how long has some of these mandatories been waiting? So I would say he's even. I mean, could he even get a mandatory spot in the next year or two? I don't think so because
I'll tell you, I'd throw him in with the winner of Dubois versus Bryan.
Yeah, that's a good shout. Whether that. Do you guys know what? Can you make sense of the WBA situation? Because
not really. Some of their rankings, no, not really, and that's why I'd suggest as his popularity grows, can I expect Scotland to start getting behind him at some stage, when his profile grows a little bit, and he may be able to have a fight up in Scotland somewhere with the Billy Nelson effect.
Does the WBA regular even confer any benefit in terms of getting closer to the WBA super? Because if you look at some of the tough fighters that have held that title, they've got nowhere near fighting for the super belt. They're just sort of, I mean, yeah, we expect Dubois blast Bryan out, but then what? Is he just sat in limbo as this pseudo title holder? The actual mandatory will be someone else, like maybe the winner of Hughie Fury v Michael Hunter, if that fight's confirmed or not. It's a total mess. It's a difficult one for Martin Bacoli. I guess the only other thing they could do is roll the dice and go in with Hrgovic. No one else wants to fight him, so that'd help him jump the queue somewhat. Yeah, Hrgovic is as good as everyone says. I wouldn't see him beating him. Myself, I'm not convinced by Hrgovic because it seems his level is based more on reputation than anything he's actually done. But that might not be his fault if no one wants to fight him. Yeah, Bacoli is a hard sell.
Well, isn't it who needs him, Club Inter?
Exactly. Yeah.
If he was British though, Carl, he'd be getting pushed. The problem is he's not. He trains in Scotland under Billy, but he's not British, and unfortunately, that then doesn't sell.
Well, it just shows you the game, doesn't it? Because let me throw another one at you then. Babbage isn't British, because he's with Matchroom and in a pantomime villain, he's getting more of a push.
Yeah. I completely agree with you.
How can that be fair? No, it's not.
It's marketability, though, isn't it? I mean,
what Babbage? He's got no marketability in Britain.
No, but because he plays, like you said, that pantomime villain, for that sort of entertainment value that people like.
How about Bacoli being a opponent for Wilder in his comeback? Would see that, or would that be a risk? Or
is Wilder coming back?
I think he's making all the right noises.
I can't see PBC giving him such a dangerous comeback fight unless Al Heyman's ready to throw Wilder on the scrap heap.
Just pick a couple of comments up in the sidebar, guys. Sorry, Ra. Just pick a couple of comments in the sidebar. Imran, he's talking about the gold medalist going on and doing things in divisions. He's put, that's why Anthony Joshua deserves more credit People question his Olympic gold medal win. Anthony Joshua has achieved a lot for a fighter with a lot of flaws in his game. Joshua, 6 years it was, 6 years in and was a unified champion. What do you think of that, Carl?
He had some gear. Come on, though. Let's talk about Charles Martin for one. If Picola would have had half the push that Joshua had, who's to say where he would be?
He's talking about Yoka winning gold medal in.
Oh yeah, Yoka's nowhere near Joshua. You got to give Joshua props for what he's done, but let's have it right. He fell straight into a deal with Eddie Hearn. Eddie Hearn has pushed him and promoted him. Probably the best promoter in the world's been behind him all the way. Doors have opened for him. So yes, he's done well with the limited talent he's got, which is the point that Imran's making. But he's had a very good promotional machine behind him, I would say. Yeah, and I always like to draw in comparisons with fighters that haven't had the push to fighters that have. Yeah. It's an unlevel playing field, isn't it?
So Joe's come out with this is an answer to you, Ra, regards the WBA regular and WBA super thing. Warren will be calling for Daniel Dubois to fight the WBA super champion if he beats Brian. So that's the tactic I think that Joe's talking about. Is Warren will be saying, well, I've got your other champion here. Let's have them fight against each other.
Does Warren have the sway with the WBA? I
don't know. Does Warren have the sway with other governing bodies? He tends to take the WBO route, doesn't he? As a promoter. I don't know, mate. I don't know what the relationship's like there. He's got Dubois into the WBA regular fight, so why not? Why not? Imran's also put Ergovic will beat Picola. Carl, what do you think of that?
I think it'd be a good fight because they're not the most fleet of foot, are they? So it'll be a war. Yeah, it'd be a close fight. I wouldn't know, to be honest. I have to give it some thought, but it'd be a war. They wouldn't need to go and find each other, would they?
And then Joe's put on the Wilder-Picola fight, he's put, that's a no from Joe. Wilder destroys Picola. Come on. Are you saying that, Joe, because Picola's not got, as Carl's just put, fleet of foot, he's not a great mover? Is he a bit too much of a standing target for Wilder for that big shot? Because let's have it right. Wilder's not a boxer, is he? Between the ropes have put, I'd say he earned his deal with Matchroom after winning gold medal in 2012. Harsh to say he fell into it, Carl.
He earned it, did he? Yeah.
I think it's a fair comment from Carl to say that Joshua got the big push, didn't he? He got all the right fights at the right time. This is Eddie Hearn's biggest masterstroke, in my opinion, the Joshua situation.
So why has not every gold medal got a big deal from Matchroom then? If they've earned it by getting a gold medal, why has not every single gold medalist got a big, nice, fat deal from Matchroom?
They took a punt on Joshua, didn't they? In my opinion, they took a punt on Joshua. That Eddie Hearn saw quite early on his marketability, and that was
exactly. It was a very good business. You don't earn nothing in amateurs, do you? Let's have it right. You get it because of your marketability and your potential.
Yeah.
I'm a big AJ fan, but I think it's fair to say, to a degree, quite a lot fell in his lap with how it went up Fury and then the belts. Yeah, I would say that's a fair comment.
Sean, the only bit I object to is the earned bit. You don't earn it, do you, at that stage of your career? You've not earned it, have you?
No.
I mean, he was manoeuvred. Let's put it like this: he was manoeuvred in the right directions, in the right way, and he got the right fights at the right time. That's Eddie's clout amongst the boxing division, the boxing belt orders. It's his little.
It's his forte.
Salesman pitch.
It's his forte, isn't it? He's very, very good at bringing a marketable boxer over who's clearly got enough potential to get around world level and build him. He's probably no one better.
Yeah. I think what he sees the marketability side before he sees the boxing talent side. Joe's put, Bicoli's there to be hit. He's talking about Bicoli's lack of movement. So he's also got a few gifts in 2012. Did Joshua? I think he's saying in that tournament in 2012 at the Olympics, Joshua was potentially gifted a couple of fights. Is that what you're saying, Joe? Anyway, regards that, the Charles Martin fight was a gimme fight. Basically, Eddie Hearn bought Charles Martin to come over and hand the belt to Joshua. Let's not have it any other way. Charles Martin didn't land a shot in the fight. It was a complete bum of a fight. Joshua's had some difficult fights where they took a bit of a risk. They didn't really know when they put him in with Klitschko. I know Klitschko was old, but they didn't really know what was going to be the outcome of that fight. That was a bit of a roll of the dice from Eddie Hearn. He took a chance, and he does that sometimes with fighters. He takes chances, and they either pay off or they don't. A majority of times with him, they pay off. Okay, guys. Moving on to the last topic. David Benavidez against David Lemieux. This is happening at the weekend. I'm a little bit disappointed with Benavidez here because David Lemieux is about 900 years old now, isn't he? And I mean, fair enough, he's only lost against the very best, but at middleweight, not at super middleweight, he's going to get absolutely destroyed, in my opinion.
And this is for the vacant interim, whatever that might mean, super middleweight WBC title.
What this does is basically, mate, all this does is it positions Benavidez to fight Canelo next if Canelo doesn't take the rematch. It's a nonsense fight. Lemieux's got no right being anywhere near this fight.
I like Benavidez, I do, but his resume is shocking. That's my only issue with him.
Difficult to match though because it's a poor division, Carl.
Yeah, but when you talk about his biggest name being Anthony, sorry for laughing, but Anthony Durrell.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. I hear what you're saying about a difficult division, but the fight in the past, Andy, the Callum Smiths win the division. If enough money's put up, he would have got the fight. So I don't really wear that one as well.
So it's going to be interesting. I mean, I'm still not convinced Canelo takes a rematch against Bivol. I think he's crazy too, in my honest opinion. He should just chalk a line under it and say, okay, I wasn't big enough for that weight. It should come back down. He should fight Benavidez, which would be a great fight. And Benavidez will be getting Canelo at a bit of a vulnerable stage. He's got to be dieting himself a little bit now. I know he's come out and said he thought he won the fight. That's just bravado. He knows he lost the fight, and when he watches it, he realises. So if that fight happened next, I'd give Benavidez a better chance than I would have previously, because he is a big puncher at the weight. 22 knockouts in 25 fights. He holds some power. Question is, does he get to Canelo if the fight happens? If the fight doesn't happen, and it's it could be a year before he gets Canelo. Who'd you put him in with, Carl? Who should he fight?
Who are we talking about? Benavidez. Who I'd like him to go in with, to me probably was different. I mean, I'd like Lerone Richards to get a big fight with him. It'll never happen, but Lerone Richards is looking for that breakout fight, isn't it? We've got some decent super middleweights in Britain at the minute who are just waiting for that breakout fight. I don't know, because the super middleweight division, on the world level, to what it's been in the past, is very, very poor, isn't it? Let's have it right.
You've also got Zach Parker in the UK.
Who,
unfortunately, I mean, he's taking his own path, the WBO route.
He's going to hang around, isn't he? He's going to hang around and wait for Andrade.
Well, the Andrade fight's never going to happen, mate, unless it's made in America. Andrade won't come to England. I'm telling you right now.
That's not what he's making noises of, but let's see.
Yeah, but this fight was made. What's he got? An injury? Is that what he's saying?
Yeah. I think he will come over.
No, he won't, mate. He won't. He won't come over. I'm telling you right now, he will not come over.
Maybe Benavidez fights Andre then in America.
Imran's just called that. Decent fight. Clash of styles, obviously. I mean, do they have to take Zach Parker to the States to fight these big fights? You know, the fight was made for the baseball ground. It was going to be a big occasion.
The baseball ground? What year are you in? Join the war?
What's it called now?
Pride
It's the
Park.
Derby Arena.
Pride Park.
Pride Park, that's it. Pride Park.
Come on, dude.
Yeah.
You're
Back to
from
the good old
East
days of the
Midlands,
baseball
aren't
ground.
Jesus.
Visit there a couple of times before I was to tell you.
Anyway, so Zach Park will be hanging around looking for a big fight, like you've said. But me and him might hit the nail on the head. Andre Benavidez, and the timing might work well with that injury as well.
Between the ropes have said Lerone Richards is a great shot. Again, sadly, it won't happen, as you said. And they've confirmed as well shoulder injury, Demetrius Andrade, which unfortunately I'm calling bollocks on. I'm calling bollocks. You just don't want the fight in the UK, mate. Lerone Richards, Sadler is such a talent. He's such a talent, but he's been overlooked by so many people. He just doesn't seem to get the push he deserves. He's a brilliant talent, in my opinion. Potentially the best super middleweight we currently have in this country. He just isn't getting the push he deserves. Unfortunately, you're going to be in a position with him where he isn't active enough. He's not fighting enough. And his style, the way he fights, he needs to be active. He needs to be fighting regularly. And it's just not happening for him. Joe's put, who's Benavidez' promoter? Do you know, Sean?
PBC, isn't it?
PBC.
Is it?
It's PBC.
That's why he's not fought nobody then. Because they don't like their fights to fight
Exactly.
anyone apart from PBC fighters. Rob, what's your opinion on Benavidez?
Again, don't
still
rate
there,
him,
mate?
to be honest. I'm there. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can, yeah.
Yeah, don't
Go ahead,
rate.
Mark.
Again, what's he done? And as you said, with the PBC, who's he going to fight? They don't want to fight Andrade, who I think stylistically is all wrong for him anyway. There's Charlo, if Charlo moves up, or Caleb Plant. I mean, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt because he is only 25. And so he has got time on his side as opposed to someone like Andrade, who's well into his 30s. Interesting point. I think all of these super middleweights at the top level, they're all hoping to land the Canelo fight, and so aren't risking things by fighting each other, which, yeah, I mean, that's really holding things up now. Much like the heavyweight division, Canelo holds up whichever divisions he's operating at.
Yeah, you're right, mate. And only one mandatory if the four can fight him at one time.
Exactly. I'll tell you what I mean, if you're talking about fantasy fights that I'd love to see, you mentioned that Bivol was just too big for Canelo.
Yeah.
But I'd say someone like Benavidez is actually bigger than Bivol. It's just that because he's younger, he can buy a lot more weight comfortably. So that would be interesting. I could easily see him going up to light heavyweight, him against Zurdo Ramirez. What a fight that'd be. Mexican against Mexican American. Both big hitters. that'd be a great fight. Won't happen, of course, because Zurdo is with top rank. And there's also the Puerto Rican banger, Berlanga.
Yeah.
Him against, what a fight that'd be. But again, top rank. Won't see it happen. So
yeah, PBC are a problem, aren't they? They talk about being the best promoting outfit in the world, and then they don't let the fighters fight the best fighters.
Well,
I don't get it.
Well, it seems their tactic is, and to some extent it seems to have worked, say, with Crawford, is just wait fighters out and like, okay, you want this really big fight, you've got to go over to us. And that, in the case of Crawford, Spence, seems to have worked. Crawford had to ditch Aaron.
I can't see Crawford signing a multi-fight deal with PBC though.
If he
unless
doesn't, he's going to be
differently.
I don't, but then he'll be stuck in limbo. Crawford's
not necessarily. He can do what Canelo does and sign a 1 or 2 fight deal, and then he's free again to fight other people
Would BBC allow him to come with a smash and grab, sort of event, like a one-off him against Spence, grab all the belts and then leave? I don't think they would. I think they'll probably say, if you want this fight, you got to sign with us for 3, 4, 5 fights or whatever.
I see your point, mate, and you're probably right. Goes back to my point about PBC, don't it? The problem is, I don't think Crawford will want to be tied down like that. His career to date, although he's an outstanding fighter, one of the best pound for pound in the world, his career to date's at standstill. Where's his profile? Where's his profile in America?
At 34, can he afford to play hardball? I don't think he can. If he wants to cement his position as one of the greats, he might have to sell himself to the PBC. And if he does, he has the option for some incredible great achievements. He can go for the undisputed fight against Spence and then go up against underweight divisions. No man has it. So
couple of comments in the sidebar. Imran said, but Benavidez doesn't have the boxing ability of Bivol. Between the ropes, said I think Crawford may end up like Aney, signing a 2-fight deal for the Spence fight and a potential rematch. Imran goes on to say he's technically flawed, as in Benavidez. Joe says Crawford's talking about Spence and Charlo. PBC will want him signed up first. Between the ropes, carries on to say maybe a 3 fight if he wanted a warm up.
I can see a 2 or 3 fight maximum. I don't see him fighting. I don't see him signing a multi-fight long deal with them because he won't want to be tied up. It's just whether PBC want to take the risk. If they believe in Spence, right? If they believe in Spence, then it won't matter whether he signs a 1-fight deal or a 3-fight deal. If they believe in Spence and they think Spence beats Crawford, it won't matter, will it? If you believe in the fighter. Anyway, Carl, I believe you have a question.
Yeah, so we'll just have a quick round robin on this one. So Andy doesn't know what this question is, Carl. I don't want a scripted response. So this is just off the bat, guys. Well, give me your thoughts. So just bear with me. So I'll set a bit of context. Eddie has been doing the rounds today talking about DAZN and the fact that they've got some big plans lined up and they've obviously had big fights recently. Do we think there's any regret from Eddie regarding leaving Sky, especially with Sky putting a bit more budget into boxing recently and signing a couple of big name Olympians? So I'll come to you first, Andy. Do you think there's an hint of regret?
Well, he talks a lot about Sky, don't he? Every time he has an interview, he brings Sky in at some point or another. It's in the back of his mind, mate. There's no 2 ways about it. He's not got the marketing platform that he had. He's not got the advertising platform that he had. He's finding it loads more difficult to give his fighters the profile that he was getting them on Sky. They were on everything, weren't they? Every advert, soccer Saturday, every soccer AM, sorry, every single thing. Sky Sports News. Anytime they could get anyone in, they were in there.
That's the big one. Sky Sports
Yeah,
News.
he's basically struggling to get that. And that's why they wanted to buy BT, because then he could have done what he wanted on there. The fact that that fell through, he must be thinking, oh, wow. You know, he might have massive financial backers, but his fight and his fighters are not getting seen by half as many people. That's my stance on it, I think.
So I'll just pick a comment up the sidebar before I come to you, Sean. So Between the Ropes says he can't regret it, bigger budget, but he does seem sour that Sky have clearly got the checkbook out a lot for these Olympians. I'd say he misses a Sky platform. So he must. Is that?
What I've said, really.
But that's probably a regret, then, isn't it? That he misses a Sky platform if he misses it. But Sean,
No, I don't think he regrets it purely because the freedom he's got now. I mean, Sky would never have him go to America, I don't know, 2-3 weeks in a row, put on great big shows, and then come back in England and do a little show in London, for example. I've heard on the grapevine, and it's only a rumour, that DAZN are doing some sort of link up with BBC. Sorry, I know they showed the Katie Taylor and Serrano fight in full about a week or so after, and I've heard just through rumours that there's going to be some sort of deal between DAZN and the BBC. So I think in that sense, Eddie Hearn will then have a bigger platform than he had with Sky. When you think all the BBC's platforms they have, so I think in the long run, I don't think he regrets it. I don't think he regrets it at the moment. He just wishes he had the other platforms available to him to promote his fighters on. Really.
Just let me just pick this in the sidebar. From Between the Ropes, he keeps saying numbers are big for subscription, but would be good to see some definitive numbers. The numbers aren't big, because if the numbers were big, he'd be shouting from the rooftops at how big they were, and he'd be telling you exactly what he's getting. Let's think back to Joshua pay-per-view nights at Wembley and the numbers he was making against the likes of Klitschko. Eddie Hearn couldn't come out quick enough and tell you what the figures were for them because they were massive. He won't tell you what they are for subscribers for DAZN because they're not massive. You're only getting hardcore boxing fans getting subscribing to DAZN. There's no two ways about it. It's a flawed platform. Unless they do what you've just said, Sean, and link up with a big free-to-air TV company like the BBC. And that would be to advertise, I would think, more than anything else.
well, it's not free to air. You have to pay TV.
Yeah, well, yeah, you know what I mean, though. You know what I mean. You know what I mean. I would say they'd be advertising on the BBC. They'd be getting the fighters on the BBC. They won't be showing the fights live on the BBC. Not a chance.
No, I could see them doing a sort of match of the day highlights program though on the BBC.
Remember, we used to have the adage like Carl Froch where we'd watch it the day after on ITV. Maybe it was something like that.
Yeah, it could be something like that.
So, Ra, what's your thoughts on Eddie and DAZN?
I think it's too early to say he regrets it because I'm sure at that level of business, when you're talking in, investments of hundreds of millions, they don't expect instant turnarounds. I'm sure they're looking at things, over the course of a decade in terms of profits. I think he's frustrated that things aren't going how he wanted, like the buyout of BT and as someone in the comments pointed out, he's certainly sour that Sky have lavished a lot of money on the young upstart Shalom. He's probably sour about that. I mean, in fact, he's pretty much admitted it, hasn't he? When he's talks about how why aren't they covering some of his fights?
Yeah.
In particular, the Taylor Serrano fight. But I think it's too early to say he regrets it. I think he's frustrated by certain circumstances, but it is too soon to say.
Just to pick up on one of the things, you just said there, Ra. Talks about profits. I don't think DAZN make any profit at all. I don't see how they can.
No, they wouldn't. But a business...
especially not in the UK. I mean, in the US now, they've got this pay-per-view model. Eventually, they'll try and bring that in every year. But he's had so much bad feedback from boxing fans that have subscribed to him in the UK that that they've not done it. They're scared to do it in case people just.
Well, they can't do it either because remember they did a big marketing campaign calling DAZN the death of pay-per-view, and
Yeah, that was a worldwide thing as well, Carl. But it
was mainly the UK launch, wasn't it? Because it's still fresh in the UK's memory, into where it's been going a bit longer in North America and other territories. So they kind of, I just think they're delaying it in the UK because of that statement.
So
I don't think a businessman like Blavatnik, who puts in billions, I don't think they expect to make profits year or so. I'm sure they have like a 5 or a 10-year plan. So if they're losing money for the first couple of years, don't most businesses when they're first starting out entering a market?
Do you think they've lost a bit more than they imagined, though, Rob?
Yeah, definitely. I think
is
that's
what
it's part of his frustration. I think he's under pressure from the DAZN executives. Like, come on, step it up. You got to put on shows.
Markowski and people like that.
The thing is, Ra, that I think Eddie Earns completely underestimated or overestimated how many subscribers he thought he was going to drag from Sky. He's not got the figures that he wanted to get. I'm absolutely sure about that. That's why he won't come out and say what they are, because they're nowhere near what he thought they were going to be. So when they put it on for $1.99 and then moved it up to $7.99, which is still pennies really for the fights that you're getting. I'll come to that comment in a minute from Between the Ropes about it. They're not making the money back that they thought. They're not getting the subscribers they thought they were going to get. Did they have this idea that they put it on for $1.99, put it on for $7.99, and then 2 or 3 years down the line bring in the pay-per-view model? Probably. They probably wanted to do that from the start. They probably had that idea from the start, sorry. And they just didn't want to tell anybody because, like Carl said, they had this big presentation about the DEFA pay-per-view. We're going to give you pay-per-view stars for $7.99, which they are doing. But that's got to be killing their profit. They can't be making money. They must be hemorrhaging. So just to that comment from Between the Ropes, he's done some huge nights. Oh, I've lost it again. I can't drag this screen, Cole. Can you pick that comment up?
Bear with me. So he's done some huge nights on DAZN that would have all been pay-per-view on Sky. So value for money for customers is far better now. In the UK, we had Canelo, Bivol, Taylor Serrano, all for $7.99.
I'm not just to clarify my comment. I'm not saying it's not value for money. It is value for money. The question was, are they doing? Does he regret going from Sky? In my opinion, he does, because he's not getting the publicity he was getting at Sky. His job is so much more difficult trying to promote his fighters on his own, because the only people that are seeing it are the people that have got subscriptions. And in my opinion, that subscription is really low in comparison with Sky views. But again, just my opinion.
I know it's hard to judge on social media, but one thing I will say, where maybe they get more views than we think, certainly the reactions after the shows is bigger reactions than you would see of a BT show, for example. So maybe they have got more subscribers than we think, but certainly not necessarily the amount of views that you would see on Sky.
But on social media, it's really just us hardcore fans that are commenting on boxing. The masses who will go and watch, say, Anthony Joshua, they generally don't have a Twitter account or an Instagram to talk about boxing. They'll watch the fight and then go about their day and not give it a second thought. It's only us hardcore fans who are really commenting on social media. And as you know,
I think half the battles, right, is when it was with Sky, obviously, it was the vehicle, Sky Sports in its entirety, drags the casuals over to Saturday night fight nights and etc., because they're watching the late night football on Saturday evening and naturally carry on watching boxing.
Yeah.
But they're obviously not getting that with DAZN. They're having to make an effort, aren't they, to download the app and to actually pick up the content. And I think that's where the tail off is. You know, where before he was obviously getting the boxes onto Sky Sports News. Every other advert was a reminder of the pay-per-view that was coming up for Anthony Joshua. And there's a reason why Joshua looks like staying with Sky, you know? Because I think he's going to stay.
Can you foresee them putting DAZN on the Sky under the apps or anything like that? Or do you think there's no chance of them doing that?
Sorry, Sean, say that again.
On Sky, they got Netflix, Amazon Prime, and all the apps that you can use. Do you think that they'll put DAZN on there alongside them, or would you say there's no chance?
Not a chance, mate.
I don't know about you, Sean, but I don't think that relationship's as rosy as Adam Smith likes to make out, because I can see a shift in the way he's talking about Eddie Hearn every time I see another interview. I mean, a recent one was where he was saying, well, what does Eddie Hearn expect regarding his signing fighters? He left us with no fighters at all when he left. And there seems to be a little bit of a shift in the way they both talk about each other. Then you got Eddie Hearn saying, well, does Sky don't give us no exposure at all? So I don't think it's all rosy, and I think there might be a bit of needle there. So
but to be honest with you, Carl, why would Sky give them any? They wouldn't do, because it's direct competition.
But they're showing they had the Fury fight on pay-per-view, didn't they?
That's because they got to deal with.
Yeah, well, I don't know what the difference is then, because they're direct competition, aren't they, BT? So I just think I don't know what Eddie Hearn expects. Is everyone going to roll over then? And I don't know. I just don't think we know it all about that relationship.
I don't think the relationship's very good at all. And it's not going to be, is it? Because I were doing massive things with Eddie Hearn, and now they've had to start from scratch again.
But they're still working together in other sports, aren't they? Like darts.
That's not Eddie Hearn. That's not Eddie Hearn, though, is it?
Well, it's his company.
It's Barry Hearn that
No, not now. Barry Hearn's retired.
Right. Okay.
So it's Eddie who deals with all that. So there must be some kind of relationship. But yeah, I mean, just picking a comment up before we finish, between the ropes, I don't think Hearn can be blamed if he's failing. He's put on some great nights and does a ton of promotion, stroke media. As I said earlier, it's just so hard to replace the Sky platform on the whole. Then Joe says, Hearn thought all the people watching his IFL videos would sign up to DAZN.
That's bang on, Joe. That's bang on. He overestimated what he thought he was going to get in subscribers. He thought, unfortunately, and it's been well documented, he says it himself, Eddie Hearn's got the biggest ego in boxing, and he thought that his personality alone was going to carry all the people over to his platform, and that just hasn't happened. It's hardcore only, unfortunately.
Yep. So I think we'll bring it to a close there, just shy of the 2-hour mark. So, Well, thank you for joining, fella. I hope it's the first of many. I really enjoyed the conversation with you tonight.
Pleasure's mine, Vince.
No worries. See you again next time. We go weekly, by the way, 7 p.m. Sean, cheers for coming on, fella. Great as ever. And cheers again.
Cheers, mate.
Brilliant sidebar tonight. Thank you to everyone in the sidebar. You know you are. So nice to see a couple of old names in the sidebar as well, even if I don't agree with what you put. So obviously, we go live every Thursday, 7 p.m. Be sure to join us. This is Last Bell Boxing in partnership with South Bank Bar Nottingham. We'll see you next week. Take care, everybody.
Cheers, guys.
Good night.